There is a certain kind of person who lives and breathes drama, and getting emotionally involved with them can drain the strongest man. When someone thrives on chaos, it becomes their identity. They don't feel alive unless something is going wrong. At first, it may seem exciting, intense, even passionate. You might mistake their emotional storms for depth or think their fiery reactions mean they care. But over time, the truth becomes painfully clear. Their life is fueled by constant conflict, and eventually, that conflict consumes you too. Every day becomes a new argument, a new misunderstanding, a new emotional explosion over something minor. You walk into the relationship hoping for comfort and companionship, but you end up stepping into a battlefield where peace doesn't exist. People who are addicted to drama are rarely aware of how harmful their behavior is. They grew up in chaos, so calmness feels strange or uncomfortable to them. A moment of peace feels like boredom, so they create problems where none exist. They pick fights over small mistakes, exaggerate innocent situations, and escalate a simple conversation into an emotional crisis. And if you try to fix things, they accuse you of not caring. If you stay silent, they accuse you of ignoring them. There is no winning because the point isn't resolution. It's the emotional high that comes from conflict. The longer you stay, the more you begin to lose yourself. You start to question your own reactions. You wonder if you're overthinking, if you're too sensitive, if you're the one causing the problems. But deep down, you know something is wrong. You find yourself constantly apologizing just to keep the peace. You give up your boundaries so that arguments don't spiral. You walk on eggshells because even a small comment can trigger a storm. And before you know it, the relationship becomes a cycle of emotional exhaustion. Drama-driven people often pull you in with intensity. Their affection feels passionate, their words feel emotional, and their highs are incredibly high. But the lows are equally destructive. They can love you fiercely one moment and blame you mercilessly the next. This roller coaster becomes addictive. You start chasing the next high, hoping the good moments will return. But the truth is, the chaos is never temporary. It's a pattern, a mindset, a lifestyle. Loving someone like this drains your peace, your mental clarity, even your sense of purpose. Peace is not boring. Peace is what allows a man to think clearly, build his future, and stay focused on his path. When you are trapped in constant emotional storms, you lose the ability to grow. Your energy goes into managing their reactions instead of building your life. You deserve a relationship where calmness is normal, not rare, where communication solves problems, not creates them, where love feels safe, not stressful. Choosing peace isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Walking away from chaos isn't running. It's protecting your soul. Never allow drama to replace stability. You deserve a love that brings you clarity, not confusion. Comfort, not chaos. There is a kind of person whose entire sense of worth depends on being noticed, admired, and constantly validated by others. Being involved with someone like this becomes exhausting because no matter how much love, attention, or reassurance you give, it is never enough. They need a continuous supply of compliments, messages, likes, and admiration to feel relevant. At first, their charm is magnetic. They dress well, speak confidently, and seem exciting because they shine in the spotlight. But over time, you begin to realize that their loyalty lies not with you, but with the attention they receive from the world. Their heart isn't driven by connection, it's driven by validation. When someone is addicted to attention, they treat love like a performance. They want the world to see them admired, desired, or praised. They rely heavily on external approval because they don't feel secure within themselves. This creates an emotional gap that no partner can fill. If you give them time, they want more. If you give them compliments, they want better ones. If you show affection, they compare it to what others give them. You find yourself constantly trying to meet expectations that keep growing, even as your energy keeps shrinking. This type of person often uses social media as emotional oxygen. They measure their value through likes, views, comments, or the number of people who message them. They might flirt for attention, not because they intend to be unfaithful, but because it feeds their self-esteem. The problem is that you end up feeling like you're competing with an invisible audience. You could give them the world, but the moment a stranger compliments them, it becomes more exciting than what you've given consistently. Their validation is short-lived, like a flame that burns bright but dies quickly, needing constant refueling. Being with someone like this creates emotional insecurity, not because you are lacking, but because they are never satisfied. You start to feel inadequate, like your effort isn't enough. You begin questioning yourself, wondering what more you can give or what you're doing wrong. But the truth is, you could do everything right and still feel unappreciated. Their hunger for attention is bottomless because it comes from unresolved emptiness, not genuine desire for connection. Over time, this dynamic drains your emotional energy. You feel overshadowed by their need for admiration. The relationship becomes one-sided. You give, they receive. You support them, they seek new ways to be noticed. You stay loyal, they stay distracted. And slowly you lose your sense of peace. Healthy love is built on mutual presence, not competition. It grows from emotional security, not external validation. You deserve someone who values your effort, not someone who needs strangers to remind them they matter. You deserve a partner who sees you, appreciates you, and stands beside you. Fully, not conditionally. Falling in love should make you feel stronger, not lesser. So protect your heart from those who need attention more than they need love. There are people who captivate you with their mystery, their silence, and their emotional distance. They seem calm, composed, and hard to read, almost like a puzzle you want to solve. At first, this emotional unavailability feels intriguing. You tell yourself they're just guarded. They need time, they've been hurt before. You believe that with enough care, consistency, and patience, they'll eventually open up. But slowly you begin to realize that no matter how much effort you give, the emotional wall never comes down. They stay distant, disconnected, and hard to reach. You fall deeper while they remain exactly where they were, unmoved. Emotionally unavailable people often send mixed signals. One day they're warm and affectionate. The next day they become cold and detached. They text you passionately one week, then disappear the next. They give just enough attention to keep you invested, but never enough to make you feel secure. This inconsistency confuses you, making you chase clarity that never comes. You start overanalyzing every message, every silence, every change in tone. You wait for a level of closeness they're not willing to offer, hoping that maybe tomorrow will be different. But it never is. They avoid emotional depth because vulnerability feels uncomfortable to them. They may have been hurt in the past, or they may simply lack the ability to form deep emotional bonds. Either way, you end up doing all the emotional work. You initiate conversations, you express feelings, you try to build connection, while they retreat behind walls. You give them your heart, but they only give you pieces of their attention. This imbalance slowly wears you down. You begin to question your worth. You wonder if you're asking for too much or if you're too emotional. In reality, you're simply asking for the basic things every relationship needs: consistency, honesty, closeness. Being with someone emotionally unavailable is like loving a ghost. They're physically present, but emotionally absent. You feel alone even when sitting beside them. You celebrate their good days while comforting them on their bad days, yet when you need them, they seem unreachable. You try to explain your feelings, but they dismiss them or shut down. You try to get closer, but they step back. You try to build something real, but they keep the relationship in a fragile, undefined space. This kind of bond drains your emotional energy because you're constantly pouring into something that never pours back. You keep waiting for the moment they finally choose you fully, but that moment never arrives. The harsh truth is that you cannot love someone into becoming emotionally available. You cannot fix their wounds, unlock their heart, or force them to care at a deeper level. Emotional availability is a choice, one they must make on their own. You deserve someone who meets you emotionally, not someone you must chase. Someone who communicates, commits, and connects, not someone who withdraws the moment things get real. Love should feel like a safe space, not a guessing game. When someone can't give you the depth you need, walking away is not loss, it's self-respect. You deserve love that reaches back, not love that remains forever out of reach. Some people enter your life not because they feel a genuine emotional connection, but because they see opportunity, benefits, comfort, lifestyle, or financial security. At first, everything seems perfect. They appear loving, appreciative, and incredibly attentive. They say the right words, act supportive, and make you feel desired. But beneath the surface lies a different motive. They are drawn not to who you are, but to what you can provide. Their affection is transactional, their loyalty is conditional, and their interest is tied directly to the advantages they receive. This type of dynamic slowly becomes clear as their expectations grow while their emotional contribution remains minimal. When someone is driven by material gain, their love comes with unspoken price tags. The relationship feels less like a partnership and more like an ongoing investment where you keep giving, hoping for emotional return that never comes. They praise you when you spend, when you provide, when you solve their problems. But the moment you set boundaries or stop fulfilling their demands, the warmth disappears. Their attitude shifts, the affection fades, and their presence becomes cold or distant. You start noticing that your value to them rises or falls depending on what you offer materially, not emotionally. You begin to feel the pressure of constant giving. Whether it's gifts, money, favors, or lifestyle support, there's always something more they want. And if you don't comply, they make you feel guilty or unappreciated. They may compare you to others who supposedly give more, or imply that love must be proven through material generosity. This emotional manipulation pushes you into a cycle where you keep offering more in the hopes of keeping them satisfied. But satisfaction is impossible because their desire is rooted in entitlement, not gratitude. Being with someone who prioritizes material gain over emotional connection slowly drains your spirit. You start feeling used, not loved. You begin questioning whether their affection is real or just strategic. You notice that the relationship lacks depth. Conversations revolve around needs, wants, and expectations rather than dreams, values, or genuine bonding. Over time, this emptiness becomes undeniable. You realize that you've built a relationship on a foundation that was never emotional to begin with. The most painful part is understanding that people like this often treat relationships as stepping stones. They stay as long as it benefits them and leave when it no longer serves their interests. The moment life challenges arise, financially, emotionally, or personally, they withdraw because they were never attached to you, only to the advantages of being with you. This realization hurts deeply, especially if you are someone who gives wholeheartedly. Love should never feel like a business deal. You deserve someone who values your character, your kindness, your presence, not your wallet. Real connection comes from shared understanding, support, and mutual appreciation. It's built on emotional intimacy, not material exchange. Protect your heart from those who see relationships as opportunities to gain rather than platforms to grow. Walking away from someone who uses you isn't loss, it's liberation. You're choosing a future where love is real, reciprocal, and rooted in genuine connection. There are people who possess a subtle yet dangerous ability to twist reality in ways that make you doubt yourself. At first, everything feels normal. They seem charming, understanding, and emotionally intelligent. But as time passes, you start noticing small shifts in the dynamic. They begin using guilt, fear, or confusion to get what they want. They make you question your memory, your intentions, even your sanity. This kind of manipulation doesn't happen loudly. It happens slowly, quietly, and strategically. Before you realize it, you're trapped in a relationship where your emotions are controlled like switches, turned on or off depending on their needs. Manipulative individuals know exactly how to make you feel responsible for things you didn't do. If they're upset, it becomes your fault. If something goes wrong in their life, you become the reason. If they hurt you, they flip the script until you're the one apologizing. They use your kindness as leverage, your empathy as a tool, and your love as a weakness. They study your insecurities, your fears, your soft spots, and they use them to keep you emotionally dependent. This creates a cycle where you believe that if you just try harder, love deeper, or change yourself, things will get better. But they never do because the problem isn't your effort, it's their manipulation. One of the most common tactics is guilt tripping. They make you feel guilty for setting boundaries, for taking care of yourself, or for asking for basic respect. Another tactic is emotional withdrawal. They pull away affection, attention, or communication whenever they want to punish you or regain control. Their silence becomes a weapon, and you find yourself chasing them, apologizing just to restore peace. They may also use victimhood to shift blame. No matter what happens, they are the ones who are hurt, misunderstood, or mistreated, even when they were the ones who caused the harm. Over time, this emotional warfare drains your strength. You begin losing confidence because every disagreement ends with you feeling wrong. You lose your voice because speaking up only leads to conflict or emotional backlash. You lose your identity because you bend yourself into someone who avoids triggering their reactions. You start to feel more anxious, more insecure, and more dependent on their approval. That's exactly what manipulators want. You in a weakened state where you're easier to control. The hardest part is that manipulators often hide behind affection. They know when to be sweet, when to give attention, and when to offer tenderness just enough to keep you emotionally hooked. This intermittent kindness confuses you and makes you believe they can change. But the cycle repeats because the behavior isn't accidental, it's intentional. You deserve a relationship where communication is honest, not twisted. Where disagreements lead to understanding, not emotional punishment. Where love feels safe, not strategic. Protecting yourself from manipulation isn't about being cold, it's about valuing your emotional health. Recognizing the signs and choosing to walk away is an act of strength. You're choosing peace over psychological warfare, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over emotional control. Walking away from someone who manipulates you is not a failure. It's the moment you reclaim your power. There comes a point in every man's life when he realizes that respect is the foundation of any healthy relationship. Without respect, love cannot grow, trust cannot survive, and peace cannot exist. When someone consistently disrespects you, your time, your boundaries, your dreams, your character, it slowly destroys you from the inside. At first, you may ignore the signs. You tell yourself she's just stressed, emotional, or misunderstood. You convince yourself it's temporary or that you can fix it. But disrespect, once normalized, becomes the silent poison that eats away at your confidence, your masculinity, and your sense of self-worth. Disrespect doesn't always come in obvious forms. Sometimes it's subtle. Small comments that belittle you, jokes that undermine you, comparisons that make you feel like you're not enough. It can come through dismissive attitudes, ignoring your needs, or acting as if your feelings are insignificant. It may show up in the way she talks to you, interrupts you, or makes decisions without considering your voice. Each moment may seem small, but collectively they create an environment where you feel unseen, unheard, and unvalued. And over time, this becomes emotionally exhausting. A person who doesn't respect you often expects respect from you in return. They demand attention, loyalty, effort, and understanding while offering very little themselves. They may criticize your goals, mock your ambitions, or make you feel unimportant in your own life. If you try to communicate, they dismiss your concerns or flip the situation until you feel like the problem. You begin to question yourself, wondering if you're overreacting or being too sensitive. But deep down, you feel the emotional erosion happening. You feel your confidence slipping, your voice shrinking, and your spirit growing quieter. Living with constant disrespect makes you carry emotional weight you were never meant to hold. You start adjusting yourself to avoid conflict, suppressing your opinions, hiding your feelings, shrinking your dreams just to keep the peace. But peace gained through silence is not real peace. It is self-abandonment. And the longer you stay in a dynamic like this, the more you begin to lose yourself. You stop recognizing the man you used to be. The man who once had goals, strength, pride, and clarity. A relationship without respect becomes a place of emotional tension instead of comfort. Instead of feeling supported, you feel judged. Instead of feeling valued, you feel criticized. Instead of growing, you feel stuck. And the more disrespect you tolerate, the more it grows. People treat you based on what you allow. If you allow disrespect, it becomes the new normal. What you must understand is this: love cannot survive without respect. You deserve someone who listens to you, values your boundaries, and appreciates your effort. Someone who sees your worth, not someone who tries to diminish it. Respect is not a luxury, it is a requirement. And walking away from someone who refuses to give it to you is not weakness. It is an act of self-respect, strength, and emotional maturity. Never settle for a love that makes you feel small. You deserve a connection that builds you, not breaks you. A relationship where your presence is valued, your voice is heard, and your soul is respected. Choosing respect is choosing a better life and choosing yourself.